ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य
ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य
ज्ञानञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं
चक्षुरुन्मिलितं
येन
येन
तस्मै
तस्मै
श्रीगुरुवे
श्रीगुरुवे
नमः।
नमः।
श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं
वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं
श्रीयुतपदकमलं
श्रीयुतापदकमलं
श्रीगुरुं
श्रीगुरुं
वैष्णवंश्च
वैष्णवांश
श्रीरूपं
श्रीरूपं
साग्रजातं
साग्रजातं
सहगण
सहगणरघुनाथां
रघुनाथान्वितं
पितां
सतं
तां
सजीवम्
सजीवं
साद्वैतं सावधूतं
सावधूतं
परिजनसहितं
परिजनसहितं
कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं
कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं
श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान् सहगण ललिता
श्रीराधाकृष्णपादान्
श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे
हे
कृष्णा
कृष्णा
करुणा
करुणा
सिन्धो
सिन्धु
दीनबन्धो
दीनबन्धु
जगत्पते
जगत्पते
गोपेश
गोपेश
गोपिका
गोपिका
कान्ता
कान्ता
राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते
राधाते
तप्त
तप्त
काञ्चन
काञ्चन
गौराङ्गी
गौराङ्गी
राधे
राधे
वृन्दावनेश्वरी
वृन्दावनेश्वरी
वृषभानुसुते
वृषभानुसुते
देवी
देवी
प्रणमामि
प्रणमामि
हरिप्रिये
हरिप्रिये
वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च
कृपासिन्धुभ्य एव च
पतितानां
पतितानां
पावनेभ्यो
पावनेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
वैष्णवेभ्यो
नमो
नमो
नमः।
नमः।
गुरुवे गौरचन्द्राय
गौरचन्द्राय
राधिकाय
राधिकाय
तदालये कृष्णाय
कृष्णाय
कृष्णभक्ताय
कृष्णभक्ताय
तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः।
तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय
दया कृष्ण
कृष्णपृष्ठाय
पृष्ठाय
भूतले
भूतले श्रीमति भक्ति वेदांता
श्रीमते
स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते
भक्तिवेदान्त
सरस्वती
स्वामीति नामिने।
नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे
नमस्ते
गौरवाणी
सरस्वती देवे
प्रचारिणे
गौरवाणी
निर्विशेष
प्रचारिणे
शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणे हरे
निर्विशेष
कृष्णा
शून्यवादी प्रत्यक्षतारिणे।
बोल. Okay, let's get started. So, very important verse. Anybody has memorized? Surya Prabhu, Poonam Mataji, Nagarjuna Prabhu probably knows.
Yes.
You know the verse? Okay. Would you like to recite? I'll hide the screen if you want to recite.
वाचो वेगन् मनस क्रोध वेगन् जीवा वेगं विदा उदारुपस्तवेगम् एतान् वेगान् यो विशेद् धीरा सर्वम् अपि बान् शिष्टिं
Prithvim.
पृथ्वीं स शिष्यात्।
Very good. Let's recite it a couple times since we have not memorized. So, whenever you all are, ready to take your Bhakti Shastri exams and all, so this verse is a memory verse. So, whenever I point out a memory verse, those verses are uh, very often quoted by Prabhupada in the purports or by our teachers in their classes, or they just they just help to convey the point very clearly, very nicely to the audience. And as ISKCON is a preaching mission. We are always preaching. You're always meeting people on a daily basis that you're preaching to. So verses help to uphold why you're speaking what you're speaking. So we always speak from Shastra, and so learning, reciting the Shastra is our baseline. It's our foundation. So Prabhupada has also said books are the basis. So that's why we should try to keep some of these verses. These are pearls of wisdom from our Vedic literature that we should keep in our memory. Treasure them. This is the only treasure we will, take with us. Gajendra in his previous life had memorized some prayers, and when he came as an animal as Gajendra, he was able to offer those same prayers to the Lord that he had memorized in the last life. So this does not go to waste, as you know. All this knowledge actually stays with us. Everything else goes to waste. So all my medical knowledge, or somebody's engineering degree, or they may be a teacher, a lawyer, or an astronaut, all that can go to waste in the as far as eternality is concerned. It may not uphold you in next life, or but this is something that will go with us actually. So also shows Lord our efforts that we are putting in, a lot of effort in trying to connect with him and his words, his disciples' words, his devotees' words. So let's recite this couple times. So I will recite it and we can use that tune. Vacho vegam manasa krodha vegam jiva vegam udarupastha vegam एतान् वेगान् यो विषहेत धीरा Sarvam api mam prithvim sashishayat. Okay, who wants to
Va
recite? Go ahead, we'll recite after you.
Vacho
One line at a time.
Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam
Vacho
Vacho
vegam
Vegam
manasa
Manasa
krodha
Krodha
vegam
Vegam
Jiva Vegam Udar
jiva
Jiva
vegam
Vegam
udarupastha
Udaropasta
vegam
Vegam
Etan Vegan Yo Vishayet Dhira
etan
Etan
vegan
Vegan
yo
Yo
vishayet
Visheshta
dhira
Vera
Sarvam Apimam Prithvim Sasishyayat
sarvam
Sarvam
imam
Apimam
prithvim
Pritvam
sashishya.
Sasisya.
Okay, who else wants to recite?
I can recite, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam
Vacho
Vacho
Vegam
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 manasa
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 krodha
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 vegam
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 Jiva Vegam Udaropasta Vegam
jiva
Jiva
vegam
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 udarupastha
Udaropasta
vegam
Vegam
Etan Vegan Yo Visheshata Vidhiraha
etan
Etan
vegan
Vegan
yo
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 vishayet
Vishayet
dhira.
Dhira
Visheshadhira
Sarvam Apimam Prithvim Sasisya
Sarvam
Sarvam
apimam
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 prithvim
Prithvim
sashishayat.
Sasishyayat
Prithvim
Okay, anyone else?
Next
Purna
time.
Mataji, want to recite? Yes, Surya Prabhu, please go ahead.
No, next time, Mataji. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so nobody else is reciting? Surya Prabhu, please go ahead if you want.
Okay, Mataji.
Hmm.
Vacho Vegam Manasa Krodha Vegam
Vacho
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 vegam
Vegam
Vegam Manasa
Manasa
Krodha
manasakrodha
Krodha
Vegam
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 Jiva Vegam Udaropasta Vegam
jiva
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 vegam
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 Udarupastha
udarupastha
Udaropasta
vegam
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 Etan Vegan Yo Vishe Vishaheta Dhiraha
Etan
etan
Eta
Vegan
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 Yo
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 Vishayet
vishayet
Vishaheta
dhira.
Dhira
Veraha
Sarvam Apimam Prithivim Sa Sisyat
Sarvam
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 apimam
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 prithvim
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 sashishayat.
Sasishyayat
Sasasyat.
Okay. All right. So I think you all know the meaning. So Vega means an uncontrollable desire or urge. Give me 1 second. Okay. So Vacho Vegam is to control the speech. Okay. So vague means an uncontrollable urge. A very strong urge, very strong impulse that you're not able to control. Okay. So six urges are mentioned. Vacho or vak means speech. So urge to speak. Manasa means urges of mind. Krodh means urge of anger. Okay. Jiva means urge of tongue. Tongue meaning what we are eating, quality of food, or what we are putting in our mouth. Udar is urge of stomach, meaning how much we are eating, quantity of food. Upasth means genitalia. Okay, genital. So control of your sex urges. So six urges are described. Etan vegan. Whoever can control these vegas, these urges, Vishahet means control or tolerate them. Who can tolerate them? That is a sober person. That sober person has the right to make disciples all over the world. Okay, he can become a Jagat Guru. He can become a spiritual master. He can become master. Why can he become a master? Does anyone know? What is the connection of controlling the urges with becoming a master of the world? Why are these 2 points mentioned here by Rup Goswami like this? Control these things and you can become a master, a spiritual master, a teacher of the world. What is it? What is the connection between these lines, these 2 lines, these 2 points?
Rishikesha.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yes. Let's Surya Prabhu and then Ravi Prabhu. Yes.
I think it's Rishikesha, right? Krishna is Rishikesha, master of all senses. That is the connection.
So Rishikesha, yes, nice point, Prabhuji. So that is one understanding, one point. That Rishikesha is the controller. Rishikesha is another name of Krishna. Rishikesha means the one who is the master or controller of senses. So Krishna is the controller of our senses. So such a person who has controlled their senses will be a perfect representative of the Lord. So he can make disciples. What else? Yes, Ravi Prabhu.
Mataji is the Goswami and Godas connection, because one who controls the senses are the Goswami, and Goswami are entitled to, basically teach the messages that Krishna has given directly.
Yes, Hari Bol, wonderful. So yeah, so
Right.
you must have known this story that once Alexander the Great came to India, Sikandar, and he came to the shores of a river where a sage was sitting in meditation. And this sage was sitting in meditation, so he did not bow down, pay any respects to Alexander. And Alexander was very used to getting respects from people. So when he did not get respect, he got upset and he started arguing with the sage. He became angry at the sage. So sage said, "Who are you?" He said, "I am the king of this world. I have controlled everyone. I have ruled everyone. I'm ruling all these countries that I have defeated. I am the ruler of the world, and you dare not bow down to me, pay respects to me." So he became very angry. So the sage said, "I don't think you can be the master or controller or ruler of the world because you don't even have mastery over your own anger. If you can't even control your own anger, how can you say that you are the master of the whole world? How can you control other people, other countries, the others, when you cannot even control one of your own qualities, which is anger?" So those people that can control their own mind, senses, body, mind, and words, they can become the masters of the world. They can teach, they can make disciples, they can become Jagat Guru. So that is the link between these two. So very nice points, both of you mentioned. Okay, let's go to. I had a PowerPoint that I was sharing last time. I just wanted to cover that because it is relevant, and that way we can finish this verse today. So we've been doing this verse for last 2 classes, and many of you already spoke on different points. Ravi Prabhu discussed Vacho Begam, controlling the speech. So we understood that speech is a very important quality to control. Otherwise, um, you know, with our speech, we can hurt people, we can break relationships, we can, cause a lot of disturbance in the world. Wars and revolutions have started because of the inflammatory speech used by people. So speech is a very important function of the body that one needs to control. And Prabhuji had nicely mentioned many points about how to control the speech is to, one, to speak Hari Katha, two, to recite Vedic literature, verses, prayers, bhajans, and also um, um, I'm sorry. Yeah. And also, Prabhuji had mentioned that verse from 17th chapter, where Krishna says austerity of speech. Austerity of speech, Krishna says that one's speech should be gentle, pleasing, beneficial to other people. It should not be agitating. It should not be disturbing to other people. It should be pleasant, gentle, and beneficial to other people. So we had discussed all those qualities of speech. We have also discussed that these 6 urges can be broadly divided into body, mind, and words, BMW. So Vacho Vegam comes in the speech section. Manasa and Krodha Vegam come in the mind control, because anger also comes from mind. So mind includes both Manasa and Krodha Vegam. Jiva, Udar, and Upasth, meaning tongue, belly, and genitals. They come in the body aspect. So body, mind, and words. So the last three hai in this verse, the last three, Jiva, Udar, and Upast, they are included in the body. Manasa and Krodha are included in the mind, and Vacho is the speech. So Vacho Vegam we had discussed in great detail last time. I will go to Manasa Vegam today, that Sheetal Mataji had discussed in the class before. So about mind, Krishna has given us many instructions about mind control in Bhagavad Gita. Chapter 6, called Dhyan Yoga, is practically dedicated to control of mind only. So let's read some verses from that chapter 6 of Bhagavad Gita and understand the functions of the mind properly, okay? So can somebody read these verses on the screen? Hopefully you can see my screen.
I can read.
Yes.
Text 34. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think, is more difficult than controlling the wind. Text 35. Lord Shri Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and by detachment. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion.
So these are all from 6th chapter, okay? So the first verse was spoken by Arjun, where he says, Chanchalam hi mana Krishna pramati balvadridam tasyaham nigraham mane vayoreva sudushkaram. So Arjun says that mind is chanchal, restless, and it's very obstinate. It's very difficult to control. I can control the wind, but I cannot control the mind. I cannot subdue the mind, although with my arrows I can subdue the wind. So then Krishna says that, oh Arjun, I agree that mind is very difficult to control, but you can control it by the suitable practice of by suitable practice and detachment, by what two methods: abhyas or practice, and detachment or vairagya. Abhyas and vairagya, these are the two practices by which you can control the mind. So we will discuss about the practice and detachment, or abhyas and vairagya, in a couple of slides. And then Krishna says that your mind should not be uncontrolled, because if mind is uncontrolled, self-realization is very difficult, okay? So you have to make mind your friend. Mind should not become your enemy. Mind should be a friend. So how to control the mind? Let's try to understand. This is where we were in our last class. So please listen very carefully. This is very important. It can be hard to understand, but let's try to understand, because this will solve many of our problems, okay? So mind has three functions, okay? Please remember, mind has three functions: thinking, feeling, and willing, okay? Does anyone know these functions? Have you ever heard of this before, that mind has three functions: thinking, feeling, and willing? Who knows? Who has heard of this before?
I heard Mataji, but I don't recall the whole thing.
Okay. So whenever somebody says, what are the functions of mind? You will say these three things: thinking, feeling, and willing, okay? Thinking, meaning to have thoughts in the mind, okay? Feeling means to have emotions. Feeling something, emotions. Like I feel very nice towards someone, very loving, or very fearful, or very hostile, very hateful. Um, some things are, bringing very much like these sentiments that come in my heart. Those sentiments, those emotions are a function of mind, feeling, okay? Things that we feel towards anyone or anything, that is feeling, okay? Thinking, feeling, and willing. Willing means to have desires. So mind creates desires. Desires meaning I want something, I want this, I want that. or I don't want something. I want to stay away from something. I want to eat this. I don't want to eat this. I want to smell this. I don't want to smell this. So desires, okay, longings, hankerings, what we say. So thinking, feeling, and willing. These are the three functions of mind. So when these functions go wrong, when these three functions go wrong, then mind becomes uncontrolled. Okay, so look at the slide. When you have excessive thoughts in your thinking, when you're overthinking, जैसे बोलते हैं ना कई लोग overthinking करते हैं हर चीज को. When you are overthinking, that's a problem. Okay, excessive thoughts, like some people have racing of thoughts. I know that I see many patients that have racing of thoughts, overlapping thoughts. एक thought खत्म नहीं हुई, दूसरी thought शुरू हो गई. So they have racing of ideas, it said. So their mind is very, very agitated all the time, racing of thoughts. Okay, they feel miserable, they feel very anxious, very irritable at all times. They're just living in their head, and so many thoughts are racing here and there. So that is overthinking. Also, overthinking can refer to um, over imagining. Like, for example, somebody said something to me. Now you blow it up in your mind, and you think they must have meant this to me. They must have meant this harm to me. Iska matlab ye hoga, wo hoga. So matlab bahut zyada to make a mountain out of molehill. It is said to make a mountain out of molehill. So excessive imagination, over imagination or overthinking. Okay, that's a problem. So that makes one fearful of people and fearful of situations. Some people are very scared all the time. They won't go outside, they won't do anything, they won't talk to anyone because their mind is always thinking of blowing up out of proportion various situations and various things that were said to them or that happened to them. So somebody may not have meant any harm, may have said something very harmlessly, very just innocently, but their mind will blow it up out of proportion. So making mountains out of molehills. Overthinking, racing of ideas, all that leads to a lot of agitation. So excessive thoughts, that's a problem. Okay, that is a problem of mind. Then when feeling is another function. Feelings means emotional. Some people are very over emotional, over sentimental. So we feel emotions because of certain experiences we had in the past, or certain impressions we have, certain perceptions we have. So we may feel loving, warm, or sometimes we feel angry, hostile, sometimes we feel kind. So in certain situations we have these type of emotions. But our shastras recommend that sentiments or emotions should be shaped by the knowledge of scriptures. So what emotions should we have in certain situations? We should have a little handle, little control on those emotions. Okay, otherwise, if those emotions are excessive, then we will become overburdened by them. We will be carrying the baggage of our emotions, unnecessary emotions, and that will cloud our judgment. So we will not be able to make proper decisions. Like, for example, in Bhagavad Gita, Arjun is feeling unnecessary emotional about these adharmi people. He's feeling unnecessarily overburdened. This baggage of um, emotions is on him, where he's thinking, oh, I'm going to kill my teachers, my grandparent, my grandfather, my cousins, or my family. But he doesn't understand. He's not thinking properly. His thinking is not aligned with scriptures, that these people are aggressors, these people are harmful to the rule of the country. They are not the appropriate people, they are not appropriate representatives of the Lord. So according to scriptures, they should not be sitting on the throne. So his emotions are clouding his judgment. They are not allowing him to do his duty. They are blinding his judgment. So over emotional, over sentimental people are sometimes not able to make the best decisions, make best choices, and use their judgment, use their intelligence, because mind has blown up these emotions too much. Okay, so sentiments should be shaped by the scriptures. Otherwise, excessive emotions will will sway our decisions in this world. Okay, so we will have excessive attachments to something or excessive aversions to something. So emotions, over emotional. Okay, overthinking, over imagining, and over emotional. Then the last function is thinking, feeling, and willing. Willing means having desires. So based on the input from the senses, mind gives us desires. Okay, like in the past, I have tasted gulab jamun and I liked it. So mind will, cause this desire in future that I want the gulab jamun again and again. So desires arise from previous conditioning, previous experience. Okay, or unfulfilled tendency, something we could not do or something we have done in the past that we want to do again. Like that, desires happen. But sometimes desires become excessive. Okay, which is sometimes people, Prabhupada says hankerings. Prabhupada uses this word hankering. So hankering is not just a controlled desire. Hankering is a very strong desire, very strong longing for something, to enjoy something. So these desires, when they become uncontrolled, when they are insatiable, like one after another they keep coming. Like in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna gives an example. In the ocean, there are so many rivers coming. Similarly, in the mind, there are so many desires coming. But we don't have to respond to each and every desire. We should not respond to each and every desire. Otherwise, it's like trying to fill a bottomless pit. Okay, it will never be filled. So do not entertain all the desires proposed by the mind. See which desires are beneficial for our life, spiritual life especially. Cater to the spiritual desires. Address the useful or spiritual desires and get rid of the unwanted or wasteful desires. Like ignore those. अनुकूल्येन कृष्णानु प्रतिकूल्यस्य वर्जनम. प्रतिकूल जो है उससे वर्जन करो, उसको avoid karo, avoid, ignore the unwanted desires. And people that start responding to all these desires become very, very anxious, very, very frustrated in this world because it's not possible to fulfill all these desires. So these are the three functions of the mind: thinking, feeling, and willing. And when these three functions go bad, they become excessive, uncontrolled, then that leads to problems of the mind. So since mental problems are so big in this world, we should know these functions. If you know the function of the mind, then you can control these problems also. So whenever excessive emotions are there, excessive thoughts are there, excessive desires are there, you can now with your intelligence control them. Okay, my mind is just blowing these things out of proportion. I can ignore these. So like that. Is this clear? This is very, I feel, technical and sometimes not explained.
I have one question, Mataji.
Yes,
So,
true.
yeah, so I'm totally very clear on this, but how do we even control some of the essential thoughts? Like, for example, for livelihood, you need to do some work, or you need to take care of your children or whatever those essential items. Those are done by thinking, practically planning those, right? Sometimes it might go wrong, like someone might lose a job, or you might need an additional support for your kid to, in his
Yes.
education is not doing well. How do we really channel those thoughts then?
Yes, Prabhuji, very nice question. So those are all actually practical thoughts. Like those thoughts you should have because they directly address the well-being of your family, your financial well-being, your health related. Those our existence in the material world needs to be nicely supported. So those thoughts that help us exist in this world, that help us live properly in this world, those thoughts are necessary. So we are not saying to ignore those thoughts, but if you're in a problem and those thoughts are always just bombarding you, then that's where meditation, reading spiritual books, association of devotees, chanting comes into play, where we are not burdened by those thoughts, but actually practically come up with a practical solution. Come up with a practical solution for the problem, not just sitting and thinking. That's not going to help. Like I often hear this example. You're going to a destination, and you are in a bus. So let's say you're running late, you're running behind. Now, if you start running in the bus really fast, will you get there before time? You
No.
won't, right? You will only reach at the speed of the bus. So let's say once you have come up with a tangible solution for your problem, you should come up with a tangible solution for your problem. You should invest that much mind in the problem. how should I make this my livelihood? What should be my job? But once you have come up with a tangible solution, don't just sit and keep thinking about this, because things will happen in their own time. By overthinking, just sitting and thinking on these problems is not going to help. So just like running in the bus is not going to help you reach the destination faster, similarly, just sitting and thinking about a problem will not help. Come up with a solution in a timely way, in a practical way, tangible way. Discuss with family or friends or whoever, your authority, your boss, whatever solution you need to come up with. You can set a timeline for yourself that I will try to handle this problem by this, in 1 month, 2 months, and then keep working towards it in a very sober way, but not letting those thoughts eat up your mind in such a way that you cannot focus on your spiritual practices, or you're always distracted. You cannot spend time with your family. Not like that. Compartmentalize those things, and give yourself time to work on those problems. Save some time in the day that for this hour I will sit and fix my financial problem, or fix my job related problem, or find a proper college for my child, things like that. But then once this is done, I'm not going to keep thinking about it, because that is not fruitful, that is not helpful, that is wasteful. So this is how I try to address in my life, Prabhuji. Don't just sit
very
and
nice.
think about it.
Very nice. Thank you.
So compartmentalize a little, and understand that my mind is making me mind has a tendency to pull towards negative. So whatever negative is going on in the life, it will keep pulling you back towards that. जैसे बोलते हैं ना, दांतों में अगर आपने मैंगो खाया, दांत में अगर एक भी वो फंस जाता है ना, मैंगो का फाइबर, the tongue keeps going to that tooth to get the fiber out. Similarly, mind also keeps dragging you to the negative. But if you understand this is what my mind is trying to do, you can pull it back from those thoughts. And that is where immersing yourself in scriptures, in good association, reciting Vedic literature, chanting, all those things help. And we will come to controlling the mind in the next slide. So this is something I came up with a flow chart here. So, we in the chariot example, we understood that so intelligence should control mind, and mind should control senses. You remember that example, everyone? In the chariot example,
yes, ma'am.
The soul is the passenger. The soul is the main person who is going in the body, and it is controlling the intelligence. Intelligence is controlling the mind, and mind is controlling the senses. But what is happening in our body, in a conditioned soul, in an uncontrolled body, that senses are imposing on the mind, and mind is imposing on the intelligence. So it is going in the reverse way. So mind is in the center, intelligence is superior to it, and senses are inferior to it. Is this point clear? Intelligence is superior to mind, senses are inferior to mind. Both of those, if controlled, can help to control the mind. So attack the mind from both sides. तो एक उसका बॉस है, एक उसका सर्वेंट है. दोनों को आप अटैक करो तो माइंड अपने आप कंट्रोल हो जाएगा. कैसे? Intelligence you should sharpen, you should make very purify it, make it very sharp. And senses you should regulate, you should engage them, you should make them dull. You can say, material senses that are very active in this world, make them a little on the dull side, like regulate them, control them. And intelligence you sharpen. And mind can be controlled from these two sides, and I will tell you how to control intelligence and senses. Mind you can also control directly by chanting the holy names. Now this is hardest for us because we are not able to focus, our mind is uncontrolled, so we are not able to chant. And so it is like a vicious cycle. Mind should अगर controlled mind होगा तो chanting हो पाएगी, लेकिन chanting नहीं हो पा रही क्योंकि mind control नहीं है. तो इसीलिए mind को control करने के लिए बाहर की help लेनी पड़ेगी by controlling intelligence and senses. तो वो कैसे करना है? So now we come to the verse that Krishna said, Abhyas and Vairagya. Krishna says, Asamshayam mahabaho mano durnigraham chalam abhyasena tu kaunteya vairagyena chagriyate. Abhyas और वैराग्य से कंट्रोल करेंगे माइंड को. कैसे? So abhyas is what? Abhyas is practice. So I said sharpen the intelligence. What is the practice to sharpen the intelligence? Who can tell me? You can even look at the screen if you want. So I have said practice या अभ्यास का मतलब है attach करना, engage करना, और वैराग्य या detachment का मतलब है कहीं से pull back करना. तो intelligence को कहाँ से pull back करोगे और कैसे attach करोगे? Who can tell me?
Mataji, for intelligence, we have to do few things, and number one is the always associate or try to have somebody in your life who are more intelligent than you, and associate with them, and then read the information, scriptures which is coming directly from the most intelligent, the one that we get all our intelligences from, and that is the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam. So by engaging the intelligence in those kind of sources, our intelligence is going to get sharpened. This is what is my understanding, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. So practice का अभ्यास किस चीज का करना है? Attachment करनी है, engagement करनी है intelligence की. How can you engage the intelligence? By reading or hearing of the scriptures, like Prabhuji said, association of devotees, reading, hearing of the scriptures, of the literature. So sharpen the intelligence like that. And detachment or vairagya किससे करना है intelligence का? How do you detach the intelligence? How do you how do you withdraw the intelligence? You withdraw the intelligence from excessive news, media, interaction with the worldly people. So avoid excess of those things and withdraw your intelligence from those. So उन चीजों से वैराग्य करना है, अपनी intelligence को withdraw करना है, and attach your intelligence to the reading, hearing of scriptures. Okay. So this is how you can use the principle of abhyas and vairagya in sharpening the intelligence. Same thing for senses. We said that we have to make our material senses dull. We have to regulate our senses. We have to control our senses, purify our senses. So how do you apply the principle of practice and detachment in senses now? What would you do? Who can tell me? Same principle now apply here.
So the verse itself, Mataji, I think, Vachovegam, Manasovegam. So you basically have those control over those five senses.
Yes. So that is vairagya. Withdraw. Withdraw your senses, restrain your senses from indulging in the temptations of this world. Right? So material चीजों से withdraw करना है, and practice या अभ्यास का क्या करना है? Attaching to spiritual. So engage your senses in services, in spiritual aspects of the Lord, like eating prasadam, serving the Lord, various activities in the temple, or so many things we can do, singing, dancing, so many things we can do. Engage your senses in services. Okay. And that is the abhyas, and withdrawal or detachment is from the indulging in the material world, material temptations, idhar udhar ka khana, peena, yes cheezein. So that's how you can purify. Yes, Ravi Prabhu, please share.
Yes, Mataji, what you just said, giving the higher taste to the senses. Because we can't just take away the lower taste from senses. We're going to go ahead and ask for it. So find the higher taste. As Mataji said, if we want to eat something which is yummy, let's make it as a prasadam offered to Bhagwan. Pehle Bhagwan ko pawao, fir apne pao. So that way the senses are also happy, and it is kind of, we are regulating them. So in Bhagavad Gita only mentions higher taste will bring down the lower taste.
Yes,
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So purify senses को करने के लिए always remember this concept: attach to the spiritual, withdraw from the material. Okay. Engage in the spiritual, withdraw from the material. That is the practice and detachment Krishna wants us to do. Okay. Similarly, mind also. So when you are chanting, how can you control the mind? We said by chanting the names of the Lord. What do you do? How do you engage the mind? Focus on the holy names. And how do you withdraw the mind? Withdraw the mind from other thoughts. So other thoughts will be coming while chanting, but gently withdraw, gently vairagya karo, withdraw karo, restrict karo other thoughts while chanting, and try to focus on the holy names. Attach yourself, practice focusing on the holy names. So I just want to introduce this concept of practice and detachment. Practice का मतलब है attach करना, engage करना, spiritual चीजों के साथ, और detachment means withdrawal or restrain from the material. So by that, intelligence and senses can be controlled, and both of them will control the mind, and directly you can control the mind by chanting the holy names. And in chanting also, you apply the principle of practice and detachment. So you can tame the mind by applying this principle of abhyas and vairagya on intelligence, on mind, and on senses. So this is how, let's see if anyone has any questions, thoughts on this. If not, so this is about mind.
Mataji, I have one question.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So actually, the mind also has the inbuilt, tendencies, right? So it won't go easily. Like, for example, if a person is used to do so many things, had so many things in their mind, and they are used to do same over and over and again, even if the intelligence and sometimes the senses are withdrawn, the mind keeps, roaming in that particular thought or in that action. So I think one thing also to add is maybe make the mind more alert to not doing things, because usually, like, I think it's my problem also. Sometimes it goes into default mode, right? So will be looking at certain things, and then it gets drawn into certain other things. So keeping the mind alert is also, in my opinion, is a good idea, at least for me. I can speak to myself. Yes, at least that will help to remind the mind that, okay, that's not the only thing that you're doing. We have to look at other things also. Otherwise, it is going to go in auto mode, subconscious mode. So that is where, I just wanted to share that. Mataji, thank you.
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, very nice. Yeah, keep it alert. Surya Prabhu is saying my mind is like a crazy monkey. So I think isn't it? No, it's not Swayam Bhagavan. It's Adi Gadar Prabhu. I think he says it's not only a monkey, not only a crazy monkey. It's a monkey on drugs, and he says many things. It's not just a monkey. It's a crazy monkey who is on drugs, who's jumping here and there. Bitten by a scorpion. Yes, you're right. Monkey bitten by a scorpion and on drugs. That's the state of our mind. So very nicely said. But yes, Ramesh Prabhu, thank you for that point. Yes, keep the mind alert and awake. When we check our patients, we say patient is alert, awake, and oriented. So stay alert, awake, oriented, be focused, be present. Our Guru Maharaj also says, be attentive, be focused, be, stay in the moment. So try to be alert, awake, oriented, especially when you're chanting. Okay, so I think mind ka ho gaya. So you understand that intelligence is superior to mind, so you should sharpen the intelligence, and senses are inferior to mind. We should not let them enslave the mind. We should not let them control the mind. The mind should control the senses, not the other way. So otherwise, senses will impose on the mind and mind will impose on the intelligence, but it should go in the reverse direction. Intelligence should control mind and mind will then control the senses. And for each, I have given some couple ways to practice and to detach. Abhyas and vairagya both. So manasa vegam, vacho vegam, manasa. Krodha vegam we discussed in detail last time. I will not go into this detail. The only thing I want to mention is that anger should be controlled. It is also a tool, but we should use it wisely. We should express it only when needed in a very controlled way, so that it helps other people and not harms you or others. Uncontrolled anger will harm others and you both. So it should be like the flame on the stove, which cooks the food, not burns it, but cooks it gently. So if you need to express anger, it should be against people that you have authority over, and we should see the time, place, circumstance, and situation in how we express our anger. Use it very wisely, and always have control over it. It should not get the best of you. You should be always the master of the anger as well. And transcendental anger, which you see in these pictures, this is transcendental anger. this is not something, we are not at that caliber, we are not at that point where we can start expressing transcendental anger. So transcendental anger means we are transcendental. Since we are not transcendental, this point really does not apply to us. This is what gets sometimes devotees in trouble and makes them look like fanatic when they start becoming angry at other people who are not following the dharma or the path, and we start punishing them or start chastising them. um, uh, that actually makes one more like a terrorist mentality than a devotee mentality. Devotee needs to be, a sadhaka needs to be just tolerant, forgiving, patient with other people, and not start expressing this type of anger with other dharmas or with other people that are following different cultures and traditions. We also talked about how if somebody is blaspheming the Lord, blaspheming the devotees, blaspheming our acharyas, then we should have sound knowledge of our scriptures to refute their understanding. And if you're not able to refute their understanding, if we cannot stand and argue with them, if we cannot defeat them in a debate, then we should leave the place. But we are not in a position where we express violence or start burning. We should not say, "Oh, I'm Hanuman. I'm representative of Lord Ram. I'm like Hanuman, so I'm going to burn this temple or this masjid or this city or this." Nothing like that. We are not allowed to do those things. Yes, Surya Prabhu, please share.
No, Mataji, question is basically, I know there are a lot of references about Krishna being angry on not getting Bhishma, right? Or Hanuman. Any reference to or understanding, because I was in the first half of my life, Shiva was my Priya Bhagwan. So he had the anger also, and then he does the basma and he annihilates the world. Is that a is that a, is there a difference in the anger in terms of, is it a tamasic anger? Is it also anger in a good sense?
Yes, Prabhu. So yes, so their anger is transcendental, like we said, Lord Shiva, Hanuman, they are pure devotees of the Lord. So their anger, like Prabhupada's anger, when Prabhupada would call someone rascal or, he gets angry, that is transcendental anger. Our Guru Maharaj can get angry at us, right? But typically our anger is tamasic. So I think we discussed this last time. Our anger is the uncontrolled anger, which is just self-centered, where we are keeping ourselves in center and we are angry because somebody has slighted us personally. So ours is mostly personal, against personal neglect or personal exploitation. Somebody hurt your pride, your prestige, so you get angry. So this is the kind of anger we have, and then we have no control over it, so we completely fly off the handle and we start screaming and yelling, and that is tamasic anger. So that serves no purpose, and it was not righteous. It was not against a right cause. It was due to self-aggrandizement, and it was not in a controlled fashion. It was expressed in a very tamasic way. So neither the expression nor the cause of that anger was useful. So both of those lead to a tamasic anger. But if you are angry because somebody has blasphemed devotees or some righteous cause, let's say somebody for the right purpose, like we discussed the example of a nurse and a doctor. Nurses has neglected her duty, so causing harm to the patient. So now that is a very right cause to get angry about. Or your child is not doing well, they are bullying somebody, so that is a very right cause to get angry, upset about. But then the cause is right, and also the way you express your anger should be right. Like it should be done in a way that it will benefit the other person. You have control over that anger. You are not you're not expressing it in front of like 10 people. You are one-on-one talking to that person, giving your authoritative review of their behavior. So that makes it mode of goodness. So now you have your anger has advanced from tamasic to sattvic. Or mode of passion will also be a lower mode. So ours is typically lower modes. But in daily life, we can at least try to come up to the level of mode of goodness, just exercise anger where we have authority, and in a way that it is pleasing, it is helpful, it is beneficial to other people and to us. Yes, Ramana Prabhu, please share. Hare Krishna.
And on a similar note, if you can go to previous slide, right? This Narasimha Swami is killing the king, right? So this is also a transcendental. It's not a self-centric anger, right? So.
Yes, Prabhuji, Narsingh is Bhagwan, Supreme Personality of Godhead, Supreme Absolute Truth. So he is always transcendental. And actually, it is said, I discussed. Go ahead, Prabhu.
Right. So what Surya Prabhu is asked, the same example also equates to this one, right?
Yes, yes. Lord Shiva, Hanuman, Narsingadev, even great devotees of the Lord, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all their anger is a transcendental anger because they are beyond these three moods. They are not doing things for themselves. They are doing it for a greater good. And they are beyond these three moods. They're not part of this material world. They come for the benefit of other people.
Right. Then why are we showing the examples as part of anger here?
Just to show this is transcendental anger, so that we don't start thinking that we have the right to express transcendental anger. Until we become transcendental, our anger is still under the three modes of material nature, and that anger is not. That anger has to be restrained quite a bit. So you cannot go around killing people or burning and all this. And Prabhupada mentions this in the purport, so that's why we brought it up here. Also, it is said about, I think I mentioned it last time, that when you hear about the Narsingadev's pastimes, people get cured of their anger. So if somebody deals with a lot of anger, if they actually read 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam and they go into the details of Narsingadev's appearance, actually they can get rid of their own self-centered, tamasic type of anger. They can get rid of that bad quality by hearing about the transcendental anger of Narsingadev. So his anger is purifying. Our anger is very contaminating to us and to other people. So वो anger जो आपका भी नुकसान करे और दूसरों का भी वो तामसिक है, और जो सबका भला करे वो transcendental है. So this is one way to understand.
Thank you, Mataji.
Okay, let's go to food very quickly. So again, we have discussed this, but I wanted to bring a few verses and a little different understanding about food. So the common understandings were all discussed by Navya, my mom. They all discussed about Jiva Veg, Udar Veg. But let's take a little deeper understanding about food. And everything actually starts from the tongue. Tongue is a very important sense organ to control. And if you can control your tongue, then a lot of these problems of anger, speech, mind that we just discussed will get controlled. So how? Let's understand. And for that, I'll tell you a very short story. Okay, this story comes in Chandogya Upanishad. Okay, Prabhupada has mentioned a verse in Chandogya in Bhagavad Gita. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3rd, verse 11. In the purport, Prabhupada mentions this verse. Okay, this verse is referred to as the science behind prasadam. Why do we eat prasadam? Why do we encourage that we should eat prasadam and it is good for your spiritual progress? So please hear me very carefully, because this is why we eat prasadam. So let's read this verse and then I'll tell you the story. Okay. And this verse also comes in Chandogya Upanishad, and the story that I'm going to tell you also comes in Chandogya Upanishad. Prabhupada quotes Chandogya Upanishad very widely, actually, in many purports. So let's hear this. Ahar shuddhau sattva shuddhau dhruva smriti lambhe sarva grantinam vipramoksha. By eating sanctified foodstuffs, okay, ahar shuddhau, one's very existence becomes purified. Sattva shuddhi, one's existence becomes purified. By the purification of existence, sattva shuddhau, finer tissues in the memory become sanctified. Dhruva smriti. Okay. And when memory is sanctified, smriti lambhe, when memory is sanctified, one can think of the path of liberation, sarva granthi nam vipramoksha. So by eating sanctified foodstuffs, this is a chain given here. By eating sanctified foodstuffs, your existence becomes purified, your mind, your memory becomes purified, the finer tissues in the body become sanctified, and then you can think of the path of liberation. So you can progress on the path of self-realization or path of liberation or path of devotional service. So Ahar Shuddho is one of the first steps mentioned in the path of self-realization. So the story in the reference to which this verse is mentioned, it goes like this. So in this Chandogya Upanishad, there comes a story of a sage. His name was Uddalaka. Okay. Has anybody heard this story of Uddalaka? And he had a son, Shwetaketu. Who has heard this story before?
Not heard, Mataji. This is
Okay,
first
then
time we will be hearing from you. Thank you.
let's hear this, because this will clarify, because I know especially Ravi Prabhu very interested in cooking food and making food, and he controls and we should actually follow his example on what to eat, how much to eat, how to make the food and everything. So this is what happened. So Uddalaka had a son and who was also his disciple, Shwetaketu. Shwetaketu उनका बेटा भी था और उनसे शिक्षा भी लेता था. So Shwetaketu, once upon a time, Uddalaka said this verse to him, and he said, everything depends on the food or water that you put in your body. So Shwetaketu did not understand. He said, what do you mean? What does food and water have to do with liberation or with self-realization or devotional service? How can everything be decided by that? So he said, when we eat the food, the grossest part of the food, the most gross part of the food becomes excreta. Okay, that comes out as stools. We all know this. So on your slide, you can see this. The most gross part of food comes out as excreta. The more subtle part of food becomes our flesh. Okay, becomes the soft tissue of the body, you can say flesh. And the minutest part of the food, the subtlest part of the food becomes your mind. Okay, that becomes your mind. Okay, so you can see how food has control on the mind. Okay, similarly, when we drink water, the grossest part of the water becomes urine. Again, excreta basically becomes urine. It is waste. It is wasted. Subtle part becomes blood. Okay, it goes into your blood, so it can purify your blood. That is why we said drink so much water, right? So it purifies your blood. And the minutest part, very, very subtle part of the water becomes your pran. Okay, your life air, your pran. It goes in your life air, pran. And then he says, so food and water clear, excreta, flesh and mind, urine, blood and pran. Then he said, fire. Fire means fiery stuff refers to, now there is some question about interpretation of fire. What does fiery stuff refers to? Fiery stuff, from where I heard this, and this is from Bhakti Rasamrit Maharaj's class. Fiery, and actually I read it also somewhere, but fiery stuff refers to these fiery foods that we eat. Now, fiery does not refer to spicy food. Fiery refers to the foods like butter, ghee, um, uh, the substances that can invoke fire, that can fuel a fire. Those are called fiery foodstuffs. Okay, जैसे butter, ghee type ऐसे जो होते हैं. Those fiery food stuff, one should take some, because their grossest part becomes bone, subtle parts become marrow, and the very subtle, the minutest part of that fiery food substances becomes speech. Okay, speech. So this is what Uddalaka explained to Shwetaketu. Now Shwetaketu was a teenage boy. He did not understand this. He said, I don't really understand what you're saying. Is there a better way to understand this? So Uddalaka said, okay, I'll show you by a practical example. I instruct you. Now Shwetaketu, his son, was very much learned in Vedas. Okay. He said, I instruct you not to eat any food for 14 days, not 15, 14 days. But you can drink water. You can drink water, pani only. Just say Ravi Prabhu does once a day in the week, only water. I say he said to do for 14 days straight. But water you have to drink, no food. And then you come back and report to me. Okay. So Shwetketu followed that type of fast, and on 15th day he came to his father Udalaka and he said, okay, I fasted from food. I only drank water. So Udalaka said, okay, now if you remember, you have memorized many Vedic verses, and he asked him to recite that. He knew Shwetketu knows these verses. He said, recite this portion of the Vedic literature, these verses from some portion of the Vedic literature, recite. But Shwetketu could not recite even a single verse, could not even think of a single verse to recite. So, so then Udalaka said, see, why you are not able to recite these verses? Why? Because you did not eat any food for 14 days. Food is needed for the function of mind. Since your mind has become very dull, very suppressed, those verses are not coming to your mind. That's so you see how food contributes to mind. So food is actually needed for proper functioning of the mind. Now we are not saying to fast from the food to become to control your mind, but we are saying what you eat actually purifies the mind. So if you are eating too much, then mind can be too agitated. If you are eating too less, then mind can become too dull. So we have to regulate our food intake so that the mind can function properly and in a purified way. So this is how Shwetketu told, Udalaka told Shwetketu that your food, the subtlest part of the food will become your mind. Since you did not take any food for 14 days, you could not recite those verses. And I told you not to stop water. Keep taking water. Why? Because water is needed for pran. Water is needed for life. If you don't drink water for a certain amount of time, then you will lose your life air. So water is needed for proper functioning of the pran. And pran is the vital force of our body. Pran, life air, is the vital force of our body. So if water is not taken, then you will lose your pran. That's why I wanted you to keep drinking water. So in this way, this is just a very short story to tell you that in our Upanishads, this importance of food and water is given in connection with purification of our body, mind, and function of speech. And in one of the purports of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada says there are 3 functions of food. Food should serve 3 functions. It should increase bodily strength, it should increase duration of life, and it should purify the mind. ये 3 function hai. You will see that taste is not mentioned anywhere. Of course, we need to have some taste in the food for us to ingest it, but still, for us to relish the food, we need taste. But the function of food is to increase the body strength, increase the duration of life, and purify the mind. So, pehle 2 functions everybody recognizes. But purification of mind is something that the Western world especially does not understand, how what you put in the body can contaminate your mind. Okay, it can agitate your mind. And so it becomes hard to chant, it becomes hard to sit in meditation, it becomes hard to focus in the classes or to do any spiritual practices or to get attracted to the Lord, because you're putting all this contaminating stuff in your body. So food and water and these uh, special foods, they have control over our mind, life air, and speech. And purification of mind is very important aspect of that, jiva and udarvegam. This we had discussed in detail about quantity of food, so I will not go into more detail of this. I have just couple more slides and couple more points to make, then we can stop. Was this this is not very famously quoted, so but I just wanted you to connect these dots to see how mind, speech, and pran is so intimately related with the food that we eat. Then in Chaitanya Charitamrita, these 2 very famous verses come. One of the verses, Jivera lalsa jai iti uti dhaye, Shishnodara parayana Krishna nahi paye. This is very strong verse actually. It is saying, Jivera lalsa jai iti uti dhaye. जीव की लालसा को पूरी करने के लिए जो इधर उधर जाता है, ओके जीवेरा लालसा, जीव की लालसा, लालसा मतलब इम्पल्स, अर्ज को पूरी करने के लिए जय इति उति धाय, इधर उधर जाता है। शिश्नोदरा, शिश्ना होता है जेनिटेलिया, जेनिटल्स, उदर इज स्टमक, तो that person is so attached to their genitals and their stomach. Parayan, like we say na, Narayan Parayan hona chahiye, we should be allegiant to Narayan, या वासुदेव परायण होना चाहिए, भगवत परायण होना चाहिए, या वो पति परायण है वो स्त्री, you know, like parayan means to be very allegiant, very faithful. Now this person is very faithful to their genitals and stomach. Shishnodara parayan, this person Krishna nahi पाए, उसको कृष्णा नहीं मिल सकता. So one who is subservient to the tongue and who goes here and there to fulfill the demands of the tongue, devoted to the genitals and the belly, cannot attain Krishna. So he's so dedicated to his tongue, his stomach, and his genitals. So this verse explains all those three, the Jiva, Udar, and Upasthvegam, that how one cannot attain Krishna if one is devoted to these things. Krishna nahi paye. Sida verse is saying nahi milenge. Fir, actually, I can show you a series of the verses that come before and after this very quickly. So here, yes. So before this verse comes, Mahaprabhu is teaching, Vairagi hana kare jivera lalasa parmartha yaya ara hayara sera vasha. If a renunciate is eager for his tongue to taste different foods, his spiritual life will be lost and he will be subservient to the tastes of his tongue. रसेरा वशा, रस के वश में है वो, रस टंग का फंक्शन है रस, रस के वश में है, बस में है, रस के बस में है, तो जीव की लालसा उसको इतनी ज्यादा है कि ऐसे वैरागी को कभी सेल्फ रियलाइजेशन या स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ नहीं मिल सकती, परमार्थ नहीं मिल सकता, परमार्थ द हाईएस्ट डेस्टिनेशन, गोल ऑफ लाइफ नहीं मिल सकता, स्पिरिचुअल लाइफ विल बी लॉस्ट. देन ही सेज वैरागीरा कृत्य सदा नाम संकीर्तना शाका पत्रा फला मूले उदरा भरणा. The duty of a person in the renounced order is to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. वैरागीरा कृत्य, वैरागी का क्या काम है, कृत्य क्या काम है, सदा नाम संकीर्तन, उसको रस होना चाहिए नाम का. He should have the taste for chanting the holy names. That is what he should have taste for. Hare Krishna mantra. शाका पत्रा फला मूले, जिसको ये शाक का, वेजिटेबल्स का, पत्रा मतलब लीव्स, फला मतलब फ्रूट, मूल मतलब रूट्स, जिसको इस सब चीजों का, उदर भरण, फिलिंग द बेली, इसका ही पड़ी है. नहीं इसमें ये नहीं लिखा, इसमें लिखा है he should just satisfy with these things because these are plain things ना, vegetables, fruits, leaves and roots are plain things. Just simple चीजों से पेट भरना चाहिए, simple चीजों से, not very opulent food नहीं लेना चाहिए. Renounced order वाले व्यक्ति को, वैरागी को, सन्यासी should only be attached to the taste of the holy name and should fill his belly with these simple foods. Okay, then he says this Jivera Lalasa. Okay, and now let me show you where he says कि बहुत opulent food नहीं लेना चाहिए. Okay, he says ग्राम्य कथा ना सुनी बे, ग्राम्य वार्ता ना कही बे, भला ना खाई बे आरा, भला ना पारी बे. ग्राम्य कथा ना सुनी बे, ग्राम्य कथा क्या होती है? Anybody knows what is ग्राम्य कथा? Who can tell me?
Gramya.
Mataji, is it like material talk? Gramya katha, like gram means village. Katha
हाँ.
means अपना गांव का village. Katha.
हाँ, you know, just like in village, people just get together and just start किसने क्या किया और क्या चल रहा है और क्या बताओ कुछ नया ताजा, है ना? People just get together and start gossiping. That is called ग्राम्य कथा. ग्राम्य कथा ना सुनी बे, ग्राम्य वार्ता ना कही बे. So ना बोलो ना सुनो, ग्राम्य कथा, gossiping. Do not talk like people in general or hear what they say. भला ना खाई बे, ज्यादा भला नहीं खाना चाहिए, ज्यादा opulent और ज्यादा very rich type of food, not eat very palatable food. Ara bhala na paribe, and not dress very nicely, like very opulent clothes or very opulent foods. So this is the instruction. Again, remember that these instructions are mostly given to vairagis, to sannyasis, because Mahaprabhu had very strong code of conduct for sannyasis. So, but also as sadhakas, we keep this in mind. Of course, when we are preaching, you know, we attract people with food. So we do try to make very nice food preparations, and dressing nicely. We always know that we should dress like a servant, not like the Lord, but like a servant. So simple, clean clothes we should dress, and not very opulent jewelry, and not too much makeup, and not very like that. So, but this is again, and we do mingle with people in general. We do hear what they have to say. Even Sanatan Goswami used to go out in Vrindavan and used to meet with people and hear all kind of kathas from them. Like they'll tell him everything. Sanatan Goswami को लोग सब बताते थे, मेरी बेटी की शादी नहीं हो रही या हो रही है, या इसने ये कर दिया वो हो गया. All this they used to tell Sanatan Goswami, and he would listen. But for preaching we do those things, but those things should not influence you. And sannyasi has to maintain a higher code of conduct. And of course, the last thing that I wanted to share was that we have to be very regulated in our habits. All these things we discussed, whether it's mind, whether it's anger, whether it's speech or eating, or how much to eat, or genitals, everything has to be regulated. So, yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnavabodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkhaha. So, one should be regulated in their habits of eating, sleeping, recreation, and work. And that can mitigate all material pains by practicing the yoga system. So ultimately, coming to the last point of this verse, connecting the dots, why is it that person who can control these urges can become the spiritual master of the whole world? Because he is a Goswami. He's a master. He's serving Rishikena, Rishikesha, Sarvopadi Vinirmuktam, Tat Paratvena Nirmalam, Rishikena Rishikesha, Sheelanam Bhaktir Uttamam. So that is a Uttam Bhakti, where you're serving the senses of the Lord and you've become master of your own senses. So you're not a Godas, you're a Goswami. And this verse was said by Prahlad Maharaj in Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, Matirna Krishne Parta Svatova Mitho Vipade Griha Vritanam Adanta Gobir Vishatam Tamishram Punah Punascharvita Charvananam. That people that are very attached to their senses, Adant go is senses, that are very attached to their senses, they will keep doing the same thing over and over again in this world. They keep coming back and they do what? They are chewing the chewed. Charvita charvananam. जैसे गाय या भैंस बार बार च्यू करती रहती है, जो खा भी लिया उसमें टेस्ट भी चला गया, the taste has all gone from it, yet it is just chewing the chewed. So people in this world are just chewing the chewed. Punah punah, bar bar, they are just chewing the chewed. There is no taste left in it, but they're so attached to their senses that they keep doing those same things, and they will never develop attraction to Krishna. Matirna Krishna. They will not develop attraction to Krishna either by their own efforts or by the efforts of other people. So this is the Prahlad Maharaj saying in 7th canto. And lastly, this comes in Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. This is again memory verse. I told you I'll point out the memory verses that are used in the course that Prabhupada quotes very often, and you will be expected to memorize if you take those exams. So this is one of those verses from Bhakti Rasamrit Sindhu. Atha Shri Krishna Namadi na bhave grayam indriye sevon mukhe hi jivadau swayam eva spurati yada. So this one says that Atha Shri Krishna Namadi, Krishna ke naam, name, form, qualities, pastimes, etc. Naam adi, naam and other things like name, forms, qualities, pastimes, etc. के लिए अटैचमेंट नहीं हो सकती टू दो सेंसेस दैट आर मटेरियली अटैच्ड. ना भवेद ग्राह्यम इंद्रिय. इंद्रिया और senses that are materially attached cannot develop attraction for the name, form, etc. of Krishna. But out of those senses, the foremost is the tongue. Sevon mukhe hi jivadau. And you can control the tongue by chanting the names of the Lord, and you can engage that tongue in service by eating prasadam. Sevon mukhe hi jivadau. If this jiva is engaged in the seva of the Lord by chanting the names or by eating the prasadam, then swayam eva sfuratiyada, then gradually that person will become purified and come to understand who Krishna really is. So this verse is saying, if your materially attached senses will not be able to develop attraction for Krishna's name, form, quality, pastimes. So we should not be very surprised when we go out in the world and people are not attracted. They are not very alert. Like Prabhuji was saying, we should be alert. If people are not alert in Harikatha or not very alert during chanting, we should not be very surprised if they're not very keen on Krishna conscious activities. Why? Because their senses are materially attached. They're very addicted to the chewing the chewed. Hmm? So they're busy in punah punah charvita charvananam. So it is very difficult to get attracted to Krishna's name, form, quality, pastime. So we should not be surprised by that. But once they start eating prasadam, once their tongue, which is the hardest to control, is put in the seva of Lord by eating prasadam, that's why we are instructed to distribute prasadam. Because once their tongue, you are engaging their tongue in service of Lord by honoring prasadam. They're honoring prasadam. They don't even know that they're engaging in service of the Lord by honoring prasadam. So, unbeknownst to them, unintentionally, they're engaging in service of the Lord. Their weakest sense, the tongue, is engaging in the service of the Lord. And then you engage them in chanting the names. That's why we do kirtan, so that they will start singing. Again, unintentionally, unbeknownst to them, their tongue is engaging in service of the Lord. And so when that weakest sense, the tongue, gets engaged in service of the Lord, swayam eva surati yada, apne aap hi baki cheezein ho jayengi. So everything else will come together on its own. So that's where I will stop. We spend the whole time just doing the slideshow. I could not come to the purport, but my time is up. So anybody wants to share anything from this? Any questions, realizations?
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. This was a very nice discussion. Also, that shloka that you shared about prasadam in so much detail, that was very helpful. Thank you. I think I've read it or heard about it once before, but I did not recall it at all. Thank you.
The one that tells you the science of prasadam?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes in Chandogya Upanishad. It's called the science of prasadam. Why we pay so much focus on prasadam. So, yes, Ravi Prabhu, please share.
Yes, Mataji, I resonate with Nagarjuna Prabhu that information about prasadam, how food, water, and it changes the whole thing in our system. I was trying to do it, but now I have a very scientific evidence also how the food is going to become our mind and how the food. That's what they recommend. You can be without food for 2 weeks, but you cannot be without water for 24 hours, more than 24 hours, because that's our prana. So thank you so much to giving the evidence.
Yes, Prabhuji. Cool.
Thank you, Mataji, for a very nice explanation. One thing I want to just add is like, yes, we have to eat the prasadam, but I think also it's very important that the devotees cook the prasadam. But we have tendency to eat, especially me, like eating the prasadam in the temple. I mean, ISKCON temple is one, the other temples too. But as we heard that recent, the things that is happening in Tirupati temple, how things are getting bad. So we should be very careful there too. So I think important is, yes, eating prasadam at the same time cooked by devotees.
Yes, Prabhuji, very important. The consciousness goes into, so I'll share this with you. I don't know if we discussed it last time or not. I can't remember, but this is something to understand. So whenever we cook food, whenever fire is used, Agni Dev is used, okay? So our Agni converts one energy into another. So so whenever we cook food, okay, we can accept like uncooked food from other people, like fruits or nuts or something like that. But once Agni is involved, the consciousness with which the person is cooking the food enters through the Agni is a medium. Agni को वाहन भी बोलते हैं. Okay, Agni को वाहन भी बोलते हैं. So Agni is a medium by which one thing gets converted to another or gets transmitted to another. So through Agni, when somebody is cooking food, their consciousness gets transmitted through that Agni into that food. So when we go eat in the restaurants and all, hard to say what that person's consciousness is. Like one of the devotees was sharing, this person is their patient who cooks in a restaurant. He's a very lusty person. He was, in patient confidentiality, he was discussing with his doctor that I am with, like, in multiple affairs and multiple women and whatnot. So such a lusty person, he's cooking the food in a restaurant. Imagine, he's polluting the consciousness of so many people. And people here, especially in Western world, have no such idea, have no such understanding that this person is transmitting his consciousness into the food, and so many people are getting contaminated by that consciousness. So very nice point you brought up, Prabhuji. And this latest controversy, this is very eye-opening, that how it is our responsibility that no, I will not go into any politics of this, but how it is our responsibility as cooking the food that we make sure that our ingredients are pure, and how it is so important to chant, because in this Kali Yuga we cannot ensure the purity of the ingredients, because it may not be anybody's fault. You may be trying your best to get the purest ingredients, but yet there is so much contamination in this world, in this Kali Yuga especially, that we cannot be 100% sure of the purity of ingredients. So at least if you are chanting, you unknowingly, all these sins that are happening unknowingly, all the contamination that is going in your body, that will get wiped away. As Krishna has promised, I will take care of all, I'll remove all the sinful reactions. So that's why we should maintain highest consciousness while cooking food, have the kirtan going, Prabhupada's lecture going, say prayers before you honor the prasadam, when you offer the bhoga to the Lord, say proper prayers, and you pray at every time that whatever mistakes we made because of circumstantial or because of my poor consciousness, everything gets, please take care of all of that. And Krishna is bhavgrahi, so he accepts your bhav, your sentiments. So if you purposely are not, did not make any mistakes, you were not negligent, you tried your best, then Krishna takes care of the rest. So,
Yes, Mataji, thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Surya Prabhu, please share.
Yeah, can you hear me, Mataji?
Yes,
Yeah.
Prabhuji.
So I just want to, on the Agni, they being the vehicle, you mentioned about, right? So unko benediction mila ki, he can basically make asucha to sucha also, right? Anything, there was a big story, long story, but Agni Dev got a benediction saying that anything which is ashuddha also he can purify it and convert it to the purest form. And then, he stopped taking the havas required for the yajna at one point of time. And then, basically, then he got his benediction. So that's why the Sarpa Yaga, even the Sarpas used to fall. And then he's not contaminated by that thing. So I'm just trying to relate that also. And then basically, in whatever that reasons happened in Tirupati or the controversial part, as Mataji, in Kali Yuga, anything can happen, how much ever you have been careful about. But I think I'm sure those are also one of the parampara Sri Vaishnavas is or the Sri Parampara, right? So they basically offer it with devotion. And I was very taken aback with that situation because Krishna means he just needs patram toyam phalam pushpam, and then we are adding something which is really it disheartened for a moment for me. But again, I thought about it and then said, okay, fine. I mean, Krishna through Agnideva is actually making it purified back to him. So sorry, my reflections, Mata, just too longer. But
Yes, Prabhuji. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. So that's why we have to get out of this Kali Yuga and this material world, because everything is full of dangers. There are dangers at every step. So the place where you feel is the safest, there can still be dangers. Nobody's, the intentions were right, but it still did not work out. Sometimes we have perfect intentions and still the action may not happen to our satisfaction. But Krishna really rewards our intentions. So So we can just pray sincerely that we get out of this material world as quickly as possible and achieve perfection in this life only, so that we don't have to come back, because there are contaminations, dangers in everything. Okay, with that we will stop, and let me stop the recording. Thank you everyone for joining. Vanchakaltarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Gurve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaya Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadbhaktaya Namo Namo. Hare Krishna.